Hi, welcome back to the shop. This is a free pressure washer that I found at the dump. Now this video is not going to be about pressure washers, but I'm going to go over how you can determine if it's worth fixing up or if it needs to go back to the dump. So we're going to go over some basics on just small engine diagnosis and hopefully get this thing running and maybe sell it on Facebook Marketplace because I've already got a pressure washer. See if we can make a quick buck. Let's get into it. First thing I'm going to do is take off all the accessories so that's easier to work on the engine. Plus we can kind of see what sort of shape they're in. So for small engine diagnostics, what you need to know is that almost all of them run on what's called the Otto Cycle. Or if you remember from school or shop class, suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Those are the 4 cycles of a 4-cycle engine. If you remember from Cub Scouts or some other wilderness stuff, to make a fire, you need 3 things. You need oxygen, a fuel source, and ignition. Or more tailored to small engines, you need compression, fuel, and ignition. So that's what we're going to check first. Compression, you can just do an informal test, pull on your pull cord, and feel the resistance of the valve system, and it does feel like it has compression. Then we can actually get out a compression tester, hook it up to where the spark plug is, and test compression that way. So we'll do that next. All right, so our informal compression test was good, but we'll do a formal one. So find your spark plug. Take your spark plug out. And a lot of times on these small engines where they're not running, people just go ahead and replace the spark plug right away. But 99% of the time, it's not the spark plug. That spark plug looks pretty good, nice and clean. So it may have been replaced in an attempt to get this running. But it's probably bad gas. That's what it is most of the time. Or a clogged carburetor. For the compression test, it's pretty simple. You thread your compression tester into where the spark plug goes. It's got an O-ring, so just finger tight's good. You hook up your gauge. And then we just pull the cord. And this will trap the pressure from the compression in there. We'll pull the cord a couple times. And then we'll read the gauge. We'll just put that there. Now, the compression on these motors varies, but we want at least 50 PSI. Some of them, old airplane engines, you want around 80. Some other engines go up well over 100. So 50 is a good starting point. And this is reading pretty low, but it looks like 60 PSI. Yeah, almost 70. So that should be good enough to start. And you can hear we release the pressure. So it was building compression. So that's a good sign. Now sometimes too, if these engines have sat, the piston rings won't be very tight and oil will have kind of run off the cylinders. So spraying some oil down the spark plug hole will often help build your compression because that liquid will help seal around the piston rings. But I don't think we need to do that. So we know we've got compression. So now we need to check ignition and fuel. Easiest way to check ignition, put your spark plug in your connector, touch it to somewhere on the block, and then we'll pull our ripcord and see if we have spark. And we've got great spark. So spark is good. These compression testers often come with a spark tester. How that works is if your spark plug is threaded into the block, which we'll do this now, because we know our spark is good, our plug is good. So we're done messing with that. Click. Don't need to go too tight. So to use one of these testers, basically what we're going to do, we're going to put one end on the spark plug, put the other end in our spark plug cap. We're going to pull the cord and we should see the light up. And again, it's kind of dim, but we already verified with our traditional method that the spark is great. So we're going to hook that back up. So this engine is looking promising. We've got compression, we've got spark, so now we just need fuel. And we should be able to get it to kick off. So our third thing, checking fuel. I verified the other day tank is empty and it doesn't smell too bad, so it could be just a dirty carb, but it could be bad gas. Our carburetor is under this cover, so I'm going to pull this cover off and we'll check that out. This appears to be our air filter. There is an air filter in there. It's not too bad, a little dirty. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3 bolts to take off this air intake. It appears that all 3 of these are 10 millimeter. And that's another thing. Most of these small engines are all metric these days, so make sure you're using the right size wrench so you're not stripping things out. Okay, that one's loose. Now this motor does have electric start, but it's currently dead. I think the battery's dead on it, and we're not going to mess with that until we verify this engine actually runs, because we don't want to waste time on something we're not going to be able to get working. All right. Boy, yeah, there's some probably nasty gas there. But what we'll do, we're going to open the choke. We're going to shut that gas shutoff off. We're just going to spray a little starting fluid up in there and see what happens. Before I try to start it, we'll verify that it's got oil. It does. Looks pretty clean. So either this hasn't been used much or they recently changed the oil on it. Choke's open, throttle's open. Let's see what happens. And the start switch is on. It wants to go. All right. So that's a great sign. We know the engine runs. So now we're going to clean it up a bit and we'll get some good gas in it. See if it runs. Otherwise we'll just clean the carb while we're at it. It's easy. We just have to disconnect these linkages, slide this off, we'll give it a quick clean. That's probably why it wasn't running good anyways. And then we'll put some gas in it and verify the pump works before we go any further. Now disconnecting these carburetors can be a little fiddly. So the first thing I did is I squeezed and disconnected this connector for the choke. And then we'll just tilt that up and remove that. I'm just going to leave this intake manifold on. No need to do anything with that. Fuel shutoff is shut off. We'll disconnect this line. Maybe we'll disconnect the throttle here. So we'll get this fine spring first. These are usually part of like the governor system. And then there's the actual throttle. Save this gasket. Should always use new gaskets, but again, we're just getting this going without putting any money into it. And then we can always pretty it up once we verify everything works. Boy, that fuel hose is tight. There we go. So there's our carburetor. I'm going to run this over to the sink and give it a quick clean. And then we'll reinstall. Plenty of videos out there on cleaning carburetors. The main thing, there's a little idle passageway in here that we need to make sure is clean. And then the main jets are clean. And that the float and the float valve often get stuck. And that's usually one of the big problems with these little carburetors. So we'll get this cleaned up. It's definitely got some varnishy gas in there. And we'll go from there. The fitting for the hose looks pretty dirty, so I'm going to clean that out. So we've cleaned out the sediment screen and the hose connector, so that thread's on. Now for the pickup valve. This is our washing solution pickup. Oftentimes there is a one-way ball shuttle valve in here. Oftentimes those get clogged up, so I'm going to remove that and clean that out too. A little note on these pressure washer connections. You have dissimilar metals, so when you're not using them, you should really unhook your hoses. Otherwise, you can get some galvanic corrosion, is partially what made that hose so hard to remove. Plus, you've also got contaminants in your water and sediment and stuff, and just natural rust. So disconnect your hoses. Plus, then you can drain the water out of your hoses and store them so they don't break if they happen to freeze. Now this would be easier to get at if I'd tilt the machine, but again, it's got oil in it. I don't want to tilt it and have the oil run into the cylinder and hydrolock it. So we're gonna work with it as is. The oil looks really good. So again, I'm not gonna spend money on changing the oil if it's in good shape. Now, when we remove this fitting, there should be a little ball bearing and a spring. We want to make sure not to lose those. But oftentimes they get covered up in gunk, then your soap pickup won't work. So you can see, hopefully, let me turn autofocus on. There's the ball, and it's stuck in there. So we'll get that out, and we'll get it cleaned. So usually you can just tap, there it is. And then you might be able to see down inside there, well, not without a macro lens, but there's a little O-ring in there. And so you want to make sure that ball bearing and the O-ring are nice and clean, because that O-ring is what prevents back pressure from the pressure washer shooting out into your soap pickup. So we'll clean the ball bearing, we'll clean this fitting. And so how this works is when there's pressure going through here, it pushes that ball bearing into the seat, and because it's pressurized, you're not going to pick up soap. But at lower pressure, it creates a Venturi effect. So when you have your soap suds nozzle on, there's not a lot of pressure in this line, but the water going past this fitting makes a Venturi and will suck in your soap. So if this ball bearing can't move freely, your soap pickup's not going to work. I'll get those cleaned up, and we'll spray some stuff in here to clean this out, and we'll put it back together. And I don't know if you saw it fall out, but here's the little spring that goes on the other side of the ball bearing. It was just laying here on the counter, so I'll get that cleaned too. Before I put the carb back on, I'm going to flush out this fuel line. So we've added some gas. We've got the fuel shut off. We've got a little container here. We're just going to open it, let a little fuel purge the line. It's not draining very well, so it could be that our fuel pickup is clogged. So we'll take a look at that. All right, so I just ran some air back through the line. Could hear it bubbling in the tank. That flow seems better. Looks like we had some varnish come out. We'll try the air trick one more time. So I get the air going before I back off the valve so I don't get gas down my air line. Back off the valve. Tank's bubbling away. Shut the valve off. Stop the air. That seems good for this size engine. They don't suck much gas, so that'll work, and it looks nice and clean. All right, let's put the carb back on and get this thing running. So all my carb parts are cleaned. I put them in the ultrasonic cleaner with Simple Green, and then I hit them with carb cleaner and blew them out with the air compressor. So first up is our main jet. We'll put that in, and again, just snug. Don't need to crank down on these, because you'll strip them out and never be able to clean them properly again. Now we need to put our float back on. Now we see our little float valve there. That slides down in the housing, and then we put our little hinge pin in, and that just slides through both parts. That gets captured in place by our float bowl, so we'll put our gasket on. Now this gasket I just hand cleaned. If you soak it in gasoline or carb cleaner, sometimes they swell up and don't fit back on well. So just be careful about that. So I just hand cleaned it. We put our float bowl on. Now we want to check and make sure that this is going to be aligned so that we can get at the drain plug when it's on the engine. I'm going to rotate it so it's kind of coming off the front. Then we'll put in our screw or bolt. This bolt holds the bowl on. Then we'll put our drain plug on, and we'll just snug them up. Again, they've got gaskets, so no need to go crazy. And that's our carb reassembled. We've already got our gasket on the block. We can get our fuel hose started. So we'll get the carb started. Then we'll get our fuel hose. Then we can get our throttle and our little throttle governor spring thing. There's probably a proper name for it. I don't know what that is, but that's good enough. There we go. We've got seated in place. Put our fuel line clamp back on. Of course, they make special tools for all this stuff, but channel locks work pretty well on these hose clamps. Just get into place with our screwdriver, maybe. Just gotta get it over the hump there. There we go. All right, now we need to get our gasket lined up. Give it a little clean. Again, new gaskets are always a good thing. Now, you want to make sure that you put it on the same way it came off. You can see there's a different pattern of holes here, but I have a little indent, which it looks like it lines up with that hole. But if I line up my screw holes, yeah, that looks good. And it looks good from this side. So I think we're all set. And those notches match up. Now we need to put our choke back on. Framing. All right, here we go. Sorry. Okay, sliding the car back on. We've got it in place. I've hooked up our throttle and our little governor spring, the fuel line. And as I was saying, the gasket, just make sure it goes back on the same way it came off. Now we'll hook up our choke. So that feeds in like this, slides around. Before I clip that in, I'll check the movement, make sure that looks right. It does. And then that just clips in there. So there's our choke. We are ready to put our air intake back on. And again, these are plastic fittings on the air intake. And there's gaskets on the carbs, so just snug, you don't need to go crazy. Again, we want to be able to service this in the future, save money by using it for a long time. All right, choke's good. We can turn our fuel on and see if we have any leaks. So far, so good. Let's see if it'll start. All right, ignition switch is on, choke's on. Start it, and when it's warmed up, we take the choke off. That sounds good. So the engine is a runner. And we haven't put any money into it. So we'll hook it up to a hose. We'll check the pump next after I put our soap pickup valve back together. Okay, for the soap pickup, got the ball, got the fastener, sent that in there, and our spring, and we'll just thread it back in the housing. For cleaning the housing, I just used some gentle cleaner. I used a little brush to clean inside this boss, and then I blew everything out with the air compressor. Now this fitting did have an O-ring, so again, we don't need to go crazy tight. We can strip it or break it. And then for our test, we're gonna leave this hose off for our initial test of the pump, and then we'll put this on later to check the soap pickup. All right, we've got the garden hose hooked up. We do have water flow, so that's good. And our check valve for the soap pickup is not leaking, so that's also good. So we'll start up the engine and just see if we notice a pressure increase. Then I'll grab the hose from my other pressure washer, hook it up, and do a proper test of the washer. Starts on. Oh yeah, that looks like good pressure, so let me go get the hose. All right, I've got my other pressure washer wand hooked up. Let's give it a go. Oh yeah! Well, that looks great. Of course, I knocked all the labels off, but it's clean now. So let me go grab the soap pickup and we'll give that a try. I just got a little container here full of about 50-50 simple green and water. Now this says it mixes it at 20:1 automatically, but this will be good for a test. Now I'm putting on the soap suds tip. We'll start her up, and I don't know if you'll be able to see the stuff move through the hose, but we'll definitely see the suds coming out of the pressure washer here. So let's give her a whirl. Oh yeah! Now we can switch out the tips, and it should stop siphoning the soap. Yep, I don't see any movement through the hose. Awesome. Bleed off the pressure here. So that's another thing on these pressure washers. They do have a bypass built into the pump, but you don't want to let them run for a long time when you're not actually pulling the trigger. It just puts wear and tear on them. So our soap pickup works great. It seems to be running great, so time to get it cleaned up and put on Facebook Marketplace. We might see if we can fix the electric start, but honestly, you really don't need it. But it's a good selling point, so we'll go from there. All right, folks. Well, she starts. she pressure washes, she soaps. It's good to go. The only thing that isn't working right now is the electric start, but I think I can get that up and running pretty easy. I might do a short on that, so make sure to keep an eye out. But again, so for small engine diagnosis, the big things are your fire triangle, right? Compression, fuel, and ignition. So check your compression by pull start or compression tester. Ignition, check it by setting the spark plug up against the block and pulling it, or use a spark tester, usually comes with your compression kit. And then for fuel, 99% of the time it's a clogged carb or bad gas. So swap the bad gas out, clean the carb, and usually you're good to go. So those are your 3 things you need to check to get your small engines running. Tips on maintenance: when you're done using it, leave it running, but shut off your fuel shutoff valve. That'll drain all the fuel out of the carb and help prevent the carb from getting gummed up. If you can get non-ethanol fuel, that also helps, gives your fuel a little longer longevity, and also using a fuel stabilizer can help with that too. So that about wraps it up. I'm going to list this on Facebook Marketplace and try to get it out the door. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm going to leave links down below for any of the tools I've used, and then as well as the new hose and nozzles I've ordered. The ones on here currently are from my pressure washer, so I'll probably just send these on with this one since it all works, and use the new ones on my pressure washer. But I'll put links for that down below. They're easily available on Amazon, and it helps support the channel. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.